and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today, I'm doing a plant care video on Cordyline fruticosa Glauca. I love this plant. I love the look of the plant. I love how easy care the plant is. It's a pretty fast grower too. So if you want something that's going to make a statement fairly quickly, this plant is a good choice. It forms a cluster of these deep green leaves here. It makes a really nice plant for centerpieces, but it also, as it gets bigger, it will also make a nice floor plant. It grows, as mentioned, fairly quickly in the scheme of things compared to some other plants. You might call it a moderate grower, though. It will, once fully grown, will reach about 4 feet tall indoors. It's really good at cleaning the air for you, too. So it's a really good air cleaning plant. I've done a video on that. I'll put a link for you. It will clean the air of formaldehyde, benzene, and other chemicals that are hard to say. So it's a really good air cleaner as well. And it has the plants with these nice, big, broad leaves like this and long leaves do tend to be very good air cleaners. And all plants, all indoor plants will clean your air to a certain extent. So this one grows similar to dracaenas, and they're actually both in the same family of plants. It's going to continue to grow up, and then at some point you will find yourself removing lower leaves, but you often will get more lower leaves down there as well. And that's as the leaves age out and that sort of thing, and it's time for them to go. So this plant is also known as Cordyline terminalis, and some of the common names are the good luck plant, the Thai plant, the Hawaiian Thai plant. However, keeping in mind, as I mentioned, that there are lots of plants with similar common names. So for instance, good luck plant is a very common name for lots of plants. And let's face it, all houseplants are good luck plants, right? So that I would have to agree with. Okay, so this plant, as I mentioned, is very easy to grow. I'm going to go through the different things you want to keep in mind. It does best in bright to medium light. You do want to avoid direct sunlight on this guy's leaves, as you will get sunburn if you're too close to a very hot window. So keep that in mind. Steer clear of southern windows, especially at certain times of the year, and western windows. You want it 2 or 3 feet back from such windows. But it will still grow well for you back from the window. It also does well under full spectrum lighting. And it can grow well in medium light. So if it's kind of in between light for you, it will also do very well in those circumstances. Won't do real well in really dark areas, but most houseplants won't. Watering. It's pretty drought tolerant, which is great. These leaves don't tend to get droopy or get damaged from you droughting the plant. However, if you want it to grow fairly quickly for you and stay green and not get brown leaf tips, which can be caused by underwatering, then you do want to keep it moist, and it will drink. The water that you give it, it will drink. Of course, you don't want to overwater. You don't want to set the plant up for root rot, but you do want to keep it evenly moist. Or consistently moist. So in that regard, I would water it when it hits the 4, or if you do the pickup test, you pick it up and it's feeling a lot lighter to you, and then or stick your finger in or a skewer, the skewer test, as I have video on that too. So just to see if it's still slightly moist, then it's time to water it. And as mentioned, if you do forget, it does dry out, it's still going to forgive you, just not if you do it all the time. You do want to reduce watering in winter like you do with a lot of houseplants, but once again, try not to let it go totally dry. And they are pretty good drinkers, so you'll probably find that you don't have to cut back too much on watering in the winter time. If you can, use rainwater or snow water in the winter time. Filtered water will also help if you're starting to get brown leaf tips, because they do tend to, like the dracaenas, get brown leaf tips. That can be caused from certain things in your water, such as chlorine and also fluoride, or it can also be from underwatering, and it can also be from dry air. So you have to kind of figure it out with brown leaf tips. I do have a video on that as well for you. And however, one way to try to avoid it is if you're having a problem and you figured out I'm doing it, it's got humidity, and I'm watering it on time, etc., then you might want to try changing your water and see if that helps as well. Temperature. So they do like it kind of medium temperature there. You don't need to worry too much about them getting too warm, as they are a tropical plant. But in terms of too cold, I would say you don't want to go under 60 degrees Fahrenheit. But they're pretty tolerant. From 60 on up, Fahrenheit-wise, they will be fine. They do like it a little warmer, but generally speaking, we're talking about 60s in 60 in winter time, depending on where you live in the world. Right now in North America, it's wintertime. So we're going to get out of that in 2-3 months, and then that plant will be happier. But as mentioned, it's a pretty easygoing plant. Okay, so humidity. As I mentioned, they would like some extra humidity, but it's not the end of the world if they don't have that humidity. However, if you start to see those brown leaf tips and crispy edges, you know that could be one of the issues. So they like to be in steamier rooms like kitchens, bathrooms, if possible. If not, you can also put them on a humidity tray, and I have video on that as well. And you can also do some misting on a regular basis. And you can also get more houseplants, because the more plants you have, the more humidified your air is going to be, because houseplants humidify each other. So you can put your pretty Cordyline Glauca with a bunch of other plants, and they will probably all have a great time and humidify each other and be perfectly fine. Feeding, you want to feed the plant fertilizer once a month during the growing season. So that would be late March, early April until September. I do have a fertilizer product. I will put the link below that you can use during those months. In the winter months, like a lot of houseplants, I suggest just pulling back on fertilizing and waiting until late winter, early spring to start fertilizing again, because plants have slowed down their growth, even though this guy doesn't slow down as much as other ones, but they really have slowed down their growth some. So you don't want to put extra stress on them by giving them nutrients. You want to wait until they start their growth spurt, their late winter, early spring growth spurt, at which point they're going to gobble up those nutrients and start growing and then ask for more. So monthly during the active growth period. And that is about it for this beauty. Enjoy it if you find one and you grow one, because they are very fun to grow, as I mentioned, and they just sometimes it feels like you look at them one day and the next day you're like, has it grown an inch? Because it looks like it has. So it's a very fun plant in that regard. This plant is, as I also mention all the time, don't overpot this plant or any of your other house plants, meaning you want 2/3 plant to 1/3 pot ratio at all times, or else you risk root rot. This plant is, if you can see, it's it's about ready to surpass that 2/3 plant, 1/3 pot. However, I'm not going to repot until late winter, early spring, because it's best not to do that. Just like it's best not to fertilize during the winter months, it's best not to repot for the most part during the winter months, and try to hold off until late winter, early spring, at which time it's a good time to do a plan for some big repotting sessions and get your plants repotted at that time, fertilized at that time, because then they will have a huge growth spurt and be a lot bigger within just 2 or 3 months for you, depending on the plant and its growth cycle and how quickly it grows. But it's good for all plants at that time. So for now, I have it in this little decorative pot, and it will be being potted up, probably though to a pot that's a little bit bigger than this pot when I pot it up, when it's time to pot it up. That is it for Cordyline glauca. Please let me know if you have any questions about the plant. Happy to answer them. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.